When learning about functions, you first have to understand the concept of variable scope. Variable scope refers to where the value of a variable is accessible. There are two main scopes, global and local. A global variable is available throughout the whole script, whereas the value of a local variable is accessible only within the function it is defined in. To show you the difference, let's look at this bit of code. Inside this function declaration, we want to print out the first and last name of the customer, as well as their age, which are defined outside of the function here. If we run this script, we can see that the name and age are not printing out. This is because they have global scope. Variables with global scopes are not accessible by default in a defined function. In order to access them, we have to import them into the function. There are a couple of different ways to do this, and we will cover those further along in this chapter. Now, in this second bit of code here, we see the variables that are defined within this function. These variables have local scope. If we ran this bit of code, you can see that the values set inside the function are not available outside of it. Again, this is because they have local scope. There is a way to get those values out of that function, and we will cover those further along in the chapter as well. Now, there is a third type of scope, and it is one that you are already familiar with. It is the superglobal. A superglobal is available everywhere, inside and outside functions. Some superglobals are post, get, cookie, and others that we have previously mentioned. Defined constants are also superglobal variables. Variable scope not only affects accessing the values of a variable, but also in changing them. If you have a variable cost outside of a function, if you do not import it into the function, you can also have a variable cost. The variable inside the function is totally separate from the one outside of the function. Each one can have its own distinct value, which means that a variable name is not distinct outside of and inside of a function. You can have the same variable name outside of a function that you have inside of a function, and they will both be completely separate. Variable scope can be very confusing, but as you learn more in this chapter about functions, you will have a more thorough understanding of variable scope as well.